So that's why the system is got a sell-by date. And that's why the snake is eating its own tail. And the debt tsunami is going to devour the economy. So batten down your hatches and be prepared. Monday, February 5th, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. We're going to look at the debt today, and I'm going to show you some charts and look at some numbers to show you that this debt tsunami that we have is going to eventually devour the whole economy. It's akin to a snake eating its own tail. That's the way I see it. And before we go further into the debt and the economy, just wanted to mention that Jay Powell yesterday was asked about the debt on 60 Minutes, and he said the debt is the problem for Congress. But he did mention that in the long term, it is a big problem, and that it's unsustainable, and that it's growing faster than the economy. And that's what we're going to talk about. But I would say that the Federal Reserve is the great enabler of this growth in debt. And why is that? Well, because they've been buying loads of that debt, making sure that the government can keep borrowing. And I'm not just making this up. I will show you how they've been enabling that. And it's very simple. It's this here. It's the assets of the Federal Reserve on its balance sheet. And you can see that since 2008, it's gone from below $1 trillion to just below 8 trillion now, and it got up to almost 10 trillion. Yes, they've been unwinding their balance sheet or doing QT. I would say that with Jay Powell yesterday also saying that they're going to have at least 3 rate cuts or just 3 rate cuts this year, it shows to me that they're going to stop this. This is never going to go back to where we were in 2008. So it's going to keep growing. And what's this got to do with the debt? Well, because if, as you can see here, the Federal Reserve hadn't been buying U.S. debt or U.S. treasuries, the U.S. government's cost of borrowing wouldn't have gone down as much as it has over the last 2 decades, and especially since the '08 crisis. And why has the government borrowed so much? Well, because first of all, they had to bail out Wall Street. After 2008, they had to bail out the real estate market and people who were irresponsible. I know a lot of people lost their homes, but a lot of people were able to keep their homes because the Federal Reserve started its QE. It kept rates low. And they did the same thing in 2020, and I would say that the same thing will happen very soon when some kind of crisis comes up, maybe to do with commercial real estate and the banking sector. Who knows? It could be something else that we don't know about, especially considering that we have all the derivatives out there as well. That's another thing people don't talk about. All the OTC derivatives in the major banks or too big to fail banks balance sheet, which are now actually backed by the FDIC. Did you know that? And we don't know if it's $1 quadrillion or 2 quadrillions, which is a number that is really something that doesn't make any sense. It's 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion. I mean, it would take to eternity to count to that number, and that's how crazy things are. But the other thing I wanted to show you is this here. If you look at this chart, so the red line is the debt, as you can see, all sectors, debt, securities, and loans, liability level. So this includes not just the U.S. national debt, but includes consumer, corporate, local government debt. Look how it started kicking off or, going up sharply after the early 70s. Well, why is the early 70s so important when we look at the debt and things like that? Well, because in 1971, Richard Nixon detached the dollar from reality, from gold. And gold is reality because gold cannot be created by Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve out of thin air. They can create dollar reserves out of thin air. Of course, gold is money. They can't create money. And that's why the economy has become a debt-based economy. And the only way the economy can keep growing is for the debt to grow. But the debt has grown so much, it's been abused so much that it's becoming unsustainable, like Jay Powell said. And you can see here that it's getting worse and worse. The chasm or the gap between the blue line, which is the economy, right? What the economy is producing, the gross domestic product, and the debt. The problem is that the debt has become so big and the economy has become so dependent on the debt that it's starting to weigh on the economy. And I've just got a couple of numbers here that I calculated on my Hewlett Packard. This is an old, some of you might have seen one of these. But if I look at the end of the third quarter of 1971, which is let's see, yeah, around here, the debt was 148.3% of GDP. But now the latest numbers here, third quarter of last year, I'll tell you where it was, 358%, but even worse, so it's more than doubled, even the proportion, but even worse is the fact that the debt is growing a lot quicker. So what could Mr. Powell and the Federal Reserve do about this if they think if as Jay Powell said, in the long term it's a problem? And again, he uses that word long term. They're just kicking the can down the road. So yeah, what can the Fed do? Well, they can unwind their balance sheet even more. They can keep rates higher or just let the market set the interest rates, not try to tell the market where rates should be. And if they do that, of course, the whole system comes crashing down. So that's why I think, unfortunately, we are in a situation where the debt is devouring the economy. And there is this saying about the snake eating its own tail. And I looked at it this morning, and it's interesting because it says it's the eternal cycle of destruction, but also rebirth. So what we're seeing here is something that is needed. It's going to be painful, of course, because destruction is painful, or death. So we're seeing the debt grow so much, the snake, which is the Federal Reserve and its debt-based system, this Babylonian debt system, devouring the economy, and the economy will be destroyed. And I think we are in the process of that. There will be a point, of course, where yeah, everything collapses. That's the point where you have destruction, but then you're going to have the rebirth. And but the transition from destruction to rebirth is going to be very painful. And what's the only way, I think, one of the ways to protect yourself from this process of destruction and rebirth? Well, it's to be not to be near the snake or in this, to be part of the snake. And that's why I always keep saying, try to have 1 foot or 2 feet out of the system because it's getting ugly. And they're not going to tell you that. Mr. Powell or Janet Yellen or President Biden or your financial advisor, because they want to keep that snake alive. But believe me, I think we are very near some kind of event. And I noticed that the national debt, and I'm going to bring that up, and that this is just the national debt, is not all the debt, of course, but debt held by corporations and household debt. But this shows how things are getting a bit out of hand. So we're at 34 trillion 200. I had a look at the numbers since the beginning of October, and that's gone up 725 billion. The US national debt, and that's in 4 months. You multiply that by three, that's over two. It's about $2.2 trillion every year. So yes, it's getting unsustainable. This is the other thing that we need to keep an eye on. US gross domestic product, or GDP. There are many who think we could be heading toward a recession, and the debt doesn't stop racking up during a recession, and that could make things even worse. And that's why I think the next recession could be when we get this existential crisis, this destruction of the whole system, and then we will get a rebirth. It will take time, of course, to see the rebirth. So I wish I had better news for you, but unfortunately, if we look at the numbers and the data, it doesn't look good. And it doesn't look like there's any political will or central banking will to solve this problem, and especially in 2024, being a year of elections for the US and many other countries. You can bet the politicians are going to keep the foot on the pedal, the debt pedal, because that's the only thing we've got, unfortunately. So let's quickly look at where the markets are then this morning. Let's bring up the prices here. So as you can see here, everything else is pretty much steady, but of course they still have control of the paper price of gold, the powers that be. I'm not concerned. I'm just happy that we can still get gold and silver, real physical gold and silver, because when the snake is about to devour and destroy the system, you won't be able to get any gold. But anyway, we're down about 16 bucks at 2023. High's been 42 and the low 2021. You can bet they were, the powers that be were managing the price overnight. And that's got to do with his speech to make it seem like things are fine, right? Anyway, silver is down 23 cents, 22.44. We're right near the lows. High's been 77. You can see that the rest of the markets are really quiet. So by the move in gold and silver, you can tell how important it is for them, because it's the last, it's the line in the sand for the central bankers and for the whole debt-based system. Anyway, let's quickly look at the commodities. I won't go through everything because it looks virtually unchanged. I don't see anything there that looks out of the ordinary. Let's look at the other currencies. Nothing there either. So let's quickly look at the commodities. Crude as well is unchanged. Brent is pretty much unchanged. High-grade copper is down a bit. There you go, 0.5%, 382.60. And let's look at the bond market. Yeah, I'm not surprised yields are up overnight, because Powell kind of said, yeah, we're not going to cut rates 6 times. We're probably going to do it just 3 times in 2024. And I don't even know why they need to cut rates. But it's part of the system, right? If they don't cut rates, they can't keep the debt going up. And at the same time, he's saying it's a problem, but it's only in the long term, right? So the 10-year yield is up almost 6 basis points here, around 4.1%. And the 2-year is up 9 basis points at 4.46. So, yes, as I said, unfortunately, in a fiat currency debt-based system, you can't really pay off the debt or else you destroy the economy. So that's why the system is got a sell by date. And that's why the snake is eating its own tail, and the debt tsunami is going to devour the economy. So batten down your hatches and be prepared, not just financially, but also spiritually, and also be yeah, in good stead with your local community, I would say. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day and a very good start to the week. Take care. Bye.